Coming up next on Making Moves, Arlington residents celebrate 60 years of a transportation icon. Learn how 8 men changed Jacksonville transportation forever and the sacrifices they endured to make it happen. Tens of thousands packed the Skyway for the first ever One Spark Festival. We'll check out all the highlights from that 5-day event. I'm Joyce Morgan Danford. Those stories and much more next on Making Moves. Welcome everyone to Making Moves. I'm Joyce Morgan Danford. JTA Chief Executive Officer Nat Ford is here. We'll be talking with him in just a few moments. But first, our top story. The JTA Board of Directors normally holds its monthly meetings at the JTA administrative offices near downtown. But for its April meeting, the board picked up and headed east, holding its meeting at the Atlantic Beach City Hall. This is the first time in more than 3 years that the board has taken its show on the road, and it's also the first time it's landed at Atlantic Beach.
At the end of the day, the JTA serves the people of Jacksonville. It serves people in Northeast Florida, and the more we can reach out to those folks and become part of their community, the better off we'll be able to serve them. And so it's nice to be out in the community of Atlantic Beach and be the guest of Mayor Bornau.
During the meeting, the board approved a grant that will complete the funding for the new Greyhound terminal in La Villa. Groundbreaking for the new building is planned for August. It's expected to take just about a year to complete. The Nat Ford Roadshow recently made a stop in Arlington as JTA's new CEO paid a visit to the Greater Arlington Beach's C-PAC. About 30 members of the C-PAC came out to hear Ford talk about the new JTA, including his plans to examine the entire transit system from the ground up, looking for potential improvements.
We may have some routes that are underutilized and some that need some additional resources in terms of operators and buses. And we need to, in an orderly fashion, restructure our system so that we are putting our resources where people are and where they want to go.
Ford plans to speak with all of the C-PAC groups, as well as other neighborhood, civic, and professional organizations around the Jacksonville area. And now an update on a story we first told you about back in February. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office installed red light cameras at more than a dozen intersections across our city. According to JSO, red light violations have topped the 2,800 mark since the first red light camera program began just a few weeks ago. Nearly 700 of those violations came at the Atlantic Boulevard and Monument Road intersections, so watch out there. Beach and University reported the second most violators, with more than 450 tickets issued there, while Beach and Southside had nearly 220 violations alone. Motorists face a $158 ticket if they are caught by a red light camera. Each violation is verified by a JSO officer before that ticket is actually issued. If you've been watching Making Moves over the past few months, then you've seen CEO Nat Ford build a new executive leadership team that is tasked with moving the agency forward in a positive way. Well, we wanted you to hear how they plan to do just that. So over the next couple of shows, we'll meet the team up close and personal and hear what exactly they have in store for their departments of the organization. Today, we're going to meet new Vice President of Compliance and Risk Management, Michael Sloan, Vice President of Long Range Planning and System Development, Brad Thoburn, and Vice President of External Affairs, Alice Cannon. Nat Ford's new executive leadership team is in high gear as they tackle the critical issues that will help mold and rebuild JTA's future for years to come. The new team members are quickly establishing roots here on the First Coast.
It's a glorious city, so much to offer, with the water everywhere and most important are the fine people here.
Michael Sloan is the new VP of Compliance and Risk Management. Sloan says he's building a team that will take the agency's ethics, diversity, compliance, and safety programs to new heights.
We want to make sure that we're constantly focused on what our objectives are, what we want to accomplish, and what are those things that can impede us from achieving that goal. And so it's not only identifying the typical financial risks, but it's also operational risk, organizational risk, and reputational risk.
One member of Ford's new executive team was already firmly planted in Jacksonville and very familiar with the transportation issues of North Florida. Former JTA Strategic Planning Director Brad Thoburn is now VP of Long Range Planning and System Development. While many of his duties remain the same, Thoburn says the approach has been revised and restructured.
So the idea is really more of a cradle to grave, so that our plans are turned to implementation, and there's not a disconnect between the planning side and the implementation side. I think a lot of times either plans don't get implemented or they don't get implemented quite like they were envisioned, because we create silos in our organization. We're sort of trying to break that down.
This new team has had to focus on making a seamless transition to their positions while they analyze the needs of the agency through the budget process and the realignment of staff and resources.
We're really working together as a team, and we've only been together for about 2 months now, but there's a strong chemistry already developing in this team.
From the beginning, Nat Ford felt communications would be a key component during his tenure. Alice Cannon was tapped to add a new spin on internal communications and take external communication to a new level.
We want everyone to have the experience of going out and meeting our customers on a regular basis, asking them what they like, what they don't like, what they need, what we could change, and then really coming back to say, did we do what you asked for, and did we provide you with a better service?
Cannon says she's up for the challenge, and some might say that sense of commitment and dedication is really part of her DNA.
I used to spend all of my summers here. My father was born and raised here, and my grandmother has a school named after her here, Susie E. Talbert Elementary School. It really runs in their veins. And of course, I'm over external affairs, and I love communities. So it kind of all comes full circle, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be here.
All agree the authority's future success comes down to one key ingredient: the people.
The public transportation is for the public, and that's the way I treat it.
For Thoburn, this was also a time to take another refreshed and different look at some employees already on the payroll.
I didn't realize I had somebody internally that really has some background and knowledge that we're just not tapping into. But because we're kind of moving things around, now they're part of your section, and you're in the position of getting to know them. I think that's been one of the most rewarding things.
We all have to support each other, and together we can make this an absolute shining system. So that's our goal.
And we are pleased to welcome back the Chief Executive Officer of the JTA, Mr. Nat Ford. Mr. Ford, you have undergone a massive reorganization. So how are things going, and have you accomplished what you wanted to do?
Things have gone very well so far. We've completed phase 1, which was to identify my 5 vice presidents and my chief of staff, and that worked, while challenging, I think it went very well, and it will be great to see these individuals help deliver a better JTA for the future.
When you bring in a new team like this, there have to be extremely high expectations of what you guys are going to be able to get done. Have you been concerned with that at all?
No, in fact, every one of these individuals are very clear on my high expectations, and that is something that they've signed up for. I expected a highly energetic, creative, and dedicated team of professionals, and I believe I've identified those individuals, and it's going to be great for the future of JTA, its riders, and our stakeholders.
One of the things I saw when I talked to your vice presidents was their passion for transportation.
Yes, that was one of the major criteria in terms of my selection process, to make sure that I had individuals that truly believed in transportation in all of its forms, be it roads, public transit, bike, pedestrian, all modes, to make sure that we had a team that really was going to push hard for a level of excellence.
Now that you've got this phase Where do you go next?
So the next phase, each of these vice presidents will have an opportunity to reorganize and restructure their areas of responsibility with an eye towards, again, we are seeking individuals that are passionate what they do, tireless, creative, that have courage to make some, I think, bold decisions and solve some very challenging issues that we may have going into the future. So I'm very excited. The next phase should be completed in a week or so now, and at that point, it's off to the races.
Oh, absolutely, and I believe, as you said, you do have the team in place to do it, the energy, the passion, it's all there.
Yeah, they are some of the best people in this country as it relates to transportation in their respective fields.
Great, and we're glad to have him here. Well, coming up next on Making Moves.
I'm Terry Casey. Something happened more than 50 years ago downtown that changed history and affected all of us in more ways than one. I'll have that story coming up.
Then later, we'll head downtown to the One Spark Festival, where our Mick Richards takes us on an exciting tour of this one-of-a-kind event.
Imagine taking a gondola ride through the canals in Venice, experiencing the breathtaking magnificence of the Eiffel Tower, or riding a legendary double-decker bus through the streets of London. For most of us, these are just dreams that will never come true, but they could. Think about saving hundreds, even thousands of dollars a year by doing one simple thing: parking your car and taking JTA instead. Save money, ride JTA, and make your dreams a reality.
When Rosa Parks refused to move to the back of a Birmingham, Alabama bus back in 1955, change didn't happen overnight. African Americans didn't automatically earn the right to sit anywhere they wanted to on a bus, and they certainly couldn't drive one. But Rosa Parks' actions that day did begin to move the needle. And Making Moves senior correspondent Terry Casey joins us now. You know, Terry, back in the late 1950s, the early 60s, the civil rights movement was in full swing. And right here in Jacksonville, we were really in the thick of it.
We were, Joyce. You're right on target there. As far as Jacksonville is concerned, here's how it happened. On a single day downtown, more than a half-century ago, the past, present, and future collided. That inevitable collision would become a turning point. It would also change the course of history for our city. Hemming Plaza, downtown Jacksonville, where you can take a walk, catch a ride on the Skyway, or just sit down and relax. But in 1960, this place had a different feel. Change was in the air. So was violence. Members of the NAACP Youth Council then, many of them teenagers, held peaceful demonstrations at segregated white downtown lunch counters. Simmering tensions exploded on August 27th. A mob of some 200 whites with axe handles and baseball bats attacked the young protesters. Amos Ely, he's 79, remembers like it was yesterday.
They didn't just hit the sit-ins and the people like that. They hit the little lady that's coming from cleaning the lady's house and the janitor that's coming out of the thing. They didn't discriminate. If you was black, they beat you.
Somebody called it Axe Handle Saturday. The name stuck.
Axe Handle Saturday was just what I call a final act to put us colored people back in our place. But it was the one that straw that broke the camel's back.
Jacksonville historian Emily Liska.
After that point, there was movement by the city and moreover by the citizens of this city. There had to be a change.
It was common for guys our age to be called a nigger. And I guess people my age, we got used to that.
Amos was 26 then. Things were tough.
I was shining shoes. That's what I did for a living.
and waited for change to come.
Changes did come, and changes in hiring came.
The Jacksonville Coach Company ran buses back then. It was privately owned and situated here along Riverside Avenue. The company hired 8 black men, demanding they meet nearly impossible standards. Then, in almost spy-like secrecy, began to train them how to drive a bus.
All good things for black people in the South started on a bus.
With civil rights icon Rosa Parks in Montgomery, Alabama, when she refused to move to the back of a bus in December 1955. 5 years later, almost to the day, Amos Ely and 7 other men seated in the front drove into history. They were Jacksonville's first black bus drivers. But back then, Amos didn't give history much thought.
If you ask me, did I go in thinking that? No. You're just a bus driver.
All he knew was, for the first time, he had a job, a real one.
I had never made $100 in 1 week. I could work all day, which I did because it was me, it was something I loved, and make any amount of money you want to make. I had never been in that situation. So you hear people talking about, what did they do to you on the bus? I said, I got called the same thing on the bus that I got called off the bus. But I was carrying on $20 to $25 per day.
It was scary from the start. Amos used to live in this area between Jackson and Stonewall Streets when threats and fear forced him out of his home.
I had to move from there when we became bus drivers because that was too hard on my family because they knew they would have got bombed.
The drivers had to deal every day with threats and the venom of verbal attacks spewed, Amos says, by whites and blacks.
It was hostile. But in my age bracket, what some people now would call hostility was the norm. I've been called a nigger on the bus without a job. I was called a nigger on the bus with a job.
At work, they dealt with segregation.
We wasn't in the room, the driver's room with the white guys, but we made the same salary.
They also made surprise discoveries.
There was ignorance on both sides. And I thought all white people could read. They thought all black people couldn't read.
The Jacksonville Coach Company eventually went out of business. And in 1971, the agency that is now the Jacksonville Transportation Authority took over all of the public transit operations in the city. And Amos Ely, well, he just kept on driving.
The thing I like most about driving was Thursdays. Payday.
Amos retired from JTA after 36 years behind the wheel.
I think it's one of the saddest days. Got in my car, drove to the gate of the bus company, and sat and watched and cried.
Amos and the others made history. There's no question they paid the price. But was it worth it?
Yes. 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 It's a star in your crown that you didn't even expect.
In Jacksonville, Terry Casey for Making Moves.
Here are the names of these men that we call the Original 8, and it is worth knowing their names. Amos Ely, Thomas Cummings, Rodney Christopher, Charles Jones, Vanderlee James, Algernon Roundtree, Charlie McRoy, and Otis Lee Williams. These guys were pioneers. They were the first. It wasn't glamorous, wasn't fun, and it wasn't easy, certainly by any stretch of the imagination. Rather, it was gut-wrenching, intense, dangerous, and on a daily basis, at least for a good part of the time. Individually And collectively, what these men did made a difference. They didn't just set the stage. They built the stage for the thousands of men and women who would follow. Amos Ely said, "We were just bus drivers." Well, Joyce, the original 8 were far more than just bus drivers, and their legacy proves that.
Oh, absolutely. It continues, and it just speaks so highly of where we started and where we are now and where we're going in the future. That was just an absolutely great story. Thank you so much, Terry.
Thank you.
The style of sculpture that I do is mixed media assemblage sculpture, and it is basically allows me to use all sorts of material that I can come across.
When we come back, we will go full throttle on creativity as our Mick Richards takes us to the One Spark Festival. Don't go away.
We live in a global community where information can be delivered instantly. But having access to information and getting accurate information don't necessarily go hand in hand. That's where we come in. We are Making Moves, the First Coast's premier source for transportation news. At Making Moves, we strive to deliver timely, reliable, and pertinent information about the transportation stories that affect our community. From transit to roads, we've got it covered. Making Moves, now on Facebook.
Welcome back, everyone, to Making Moves. An estimated 130,000 people flocked to downtown Jacksonville for the first ever One Spark Festival during 5 days in April. The Uber Creative Festival was like nothing Jacksonville had ever seen, filled with music, wildly innovative ideas, amazing artwork, and much more. Making Moves videographer Mick Richards has the highlights from what many are hoping will become the city's next great tradition.
We're going to One Spark. Going to One Spark.
I ride the Skyway all the time. I think it's very convenient and it's awesome.
We actually go by the Skyway Express because it's a lot of fun.
It's my first time riding the Skyway and I'm kind of excited about it.
It can take me anywhere I need to go downtown.
We can park on San Marcos side and we can travel across the river and be right there at Hemming Park. It's great.
One Spark is the world's first live crowdfunding festival that brings creators from all walks of life, so art, music, science, technology, to showcase their most amazing projects.
I see One Spark as being a great coming out party for downtown Jacksonville.
One Spark's awesome because it gives us a chance to showcase what we're trying to do to everybody in Jackson. It brings a lot of other people together.
People to be able to come out and support and show culture to our city.
It's just giving me the confidence to go further and to hopefully gain some more local clientele.
And I think One Spark is definitely a way for us to try to raise awareness and money.
We get to spread our message. We're getting support from the community of Jacksonville, and that's what it's all about.
The style of sculpture that I do is mixed media assemblage sculpture, and it is basically allows me to use all sorts of material that I can come across.
What we're doing is bringing printmaking back to the media and to culture and showing everyone that relief printmaking is not a thing of the past.
Perfect.
Perfect.
What does it look to you?
My One Spark idea was to open up an art and meditation studio where I can teach people how to paint, be creative, and also teach them how to meditate.
I'm a charcoal artist, and the reason why I do it is because once the burn hits you, once you have to do it, you can't do nothing else but be what you are, and I'm an artist.
I came up with these guys. I drew some characters that I liked. They're baby monsters in pajamas, and if you sleep with them in bed, they'll keep away the bad monsters.
I get a lot of these designs here, and it basically comes from the world I live in.
That's fabulous.
I really wanted to do something about the boarded up plywood windows downtown. I decided to take some of my art and put it up.
There are a lot of paintings. There are about 20 some of them here, and the inspiration for me comes from my understanding of the scriptures and my understanding of what life is about.
This is a strand of hope that represents the ladies that are still out there affected by the sex trade. So with this strand, we're giving the ladies hope that are still out there.
Well, as you saw, JTA Skyway trains were a huge hit with festival goers. Crowds on the trains were larger than at any time since the Super Bowl back in 2005. More than 44,000 trips were taken on the Skyway during the festival. Now get this, here's what a few people posted on Facebook or other online blogs about their Skyway adventures during the One Spark. Ray Blair posted, "I love that the Skyway made access so easy." This is from LP Hovercraft. "I did really like the convenience of parking at the convention center lot and then taking nearly full Skyway to Hemming Plaza." Kula says, "I drove to the convention center and hopped on the very crowded Skyway. It was quite convenient." And from Video John, "I parked at the convention center parking lot and took the Skyway. It was very convenient." So what does having 44,000 people packing the trains to get to this festival mean for our Skyway? It was really wonderful.
Well, it means that our Skyway has a bright future, and as part of the downtown revitalization, events like this, it perfectly fits with the purpose of the Skyway.
It really does, and I think it's just going to bring a lot more people to try it again. I mean, 44,000 trips?
And I was one of those 44,000. I was out there and I got a chance to see everyone enjoying using the Skyway, and folks that this was their first time coming down to Jacksonville, some tourists, and then some people who were in our greater region who were making part of their experience a trip on the Skyway to the One Spark Festival. So we were very happy with the turnout.
And time now for the last word, Mathews. And for the record, that's Mathews with just one T. Named after the former Chief Justice of the Florida Supreme Court, John E. Mathews, the Mathews Bridge has had a long and somewhat dubious history. The large, majestic, maroon-colored bridge that links downtown and Arlington has struck fear into many a driver over the years. But that didn't stop dozens of Arlington residents from coming out to celebrate its 60th anniversary, capped off by a spectacular motorcade across the Mathews.
I think it expanded the city, you know, and connecting it to our downtown business district into Arlington and connecting the beaches has made Jacksonville a major city rather than, you know, a small city on the St. Johns. It became one of the, the pillars of the East Coast.
And you may not know that the bridge wasn't always the maroon color it is now. Prior to 1984, it was actually silver. The Mathews was painted maroon in celebration of Jacksonville's new United States Football League franchise, the Jacksonville Bulls, and everybody, that is the last word. And that wraps up this edition of Making Moves. Thanks so much for joining us today. And remember, if you missed any part of the show or you just want to watch it again, complete episodes of Making Moves are always available on JTAFLA.com and on our YouTube channel, JTA 904. You can also find exclusive web-only content on our Facebook page. So be sure to check us out at facebook.com/JTA Making Moves. And for the entire Making Moves team, I'm Joyce Morgan Danforth. We'll see you the next time we're making moves.